Good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Swanson. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm going to wait just a few minutes here to wait for people to join. I see that I have a few people joining me so far. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining me from. Again, my name is Leah Swanson. Good morning, Mary. It's nice to see you here. Thanks for joining. Looks like we're having a few more people join. Thanks for having me. So I am coming to you live from Seattle, Washington. I'd love to hear where you all are coming from and joining me from this morning. If you want to share in the chat box or in the comments box where you're coming from, that would be kind of fun to see. Give it a few more minutes. Like I said, I'm joining you from Seattle, so still morning here, still waking up, ready for my second cup of coffee. Okay, looks like we have Lindsay from Wyoming, Mary from Cincinnati. We have Amanda from the UK. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. And we have Andrew from Minnesota. All right, Kimberly from Kentucky. Very cool. I love to see that you're joining me from all over. I'll have to say that this is my first Facebook Live today, so bear with me, but I'm very excited to be here. And I want to thank Build Up Dietitians for inviting me to share this morning. Looks like we have Monica joining from Arkansas. Welcome. Give it one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. Well, that wasn't quite a minute, but it is 9 o'clock here in Seattle or noon on the East Coast. So I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Leah Swanson. Again, I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington. I'm a registered dietitian and I work for Trident Seafoods as a nutrition and labeling specialist. So before we dig in, I'd love to have you comment and ask questions throughout the presentation, and I'll try to answer them as I go. And if there's any I miss, I will grab those at the end. I'd also love to connect on Instagram or Twitter. You can find me at Got Nourishment. No caps, no spaces. I'd also love to connect on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn handle is Leah-Swanson-RDN. So too, if you think of questions later, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or social, I'd be happy to answer any questions that come up. Okay. So that being said, again, please ask questions throughout and I'll get started. I'd first like to say that I am very passionate about dietetics and being a dietitian, but also sharing with dietitians and future RDs the different career opportunities. I've been through several myself, and it's been a process to discover kind of what's out there. I had no idea that where I am now was an option when I was in school. I would have loved to know that. You know, we're all kind of taught the basic paths of a dietitian, but this is definitely off the beaten path. So we'll start out with just saying why I wanted to become a dietitian in the first place. I'd say my love for health and nutrition really started out in high school. I ran cross country and track, and I did swim team. And I had a really great coach who kind of introduced me to the idea that food can influence your performance. That's also about the time that I started getting into cooking. Then comes college. I started out as pre-nursing, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but I had a lot of family members who were nurses, so I thought that would be a good place to start. Quickly decided that that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I discovered that my school, I went to Seattle Pacific University, discovered that my school had a dietetics program. I had never heard of dietitians up until that point. But upon researching, I know like a lot of dietitians discovered the wonderful combination of food and science and health and just the ability to help people. So realized that that was kind of like the perfect combo. At this point, and even throughout my career in college, I'd say I never truly realized what I really wanted to do or what course I wanted to take with dietetics. I just knew that I loved the field and I wanted to do something in it. Looks like we have a few more people joining us. Another Washington State. Hi, Kara. And Alice from Nebraska. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I'd say out of college, as part of my internship, I interned with a school food service operation here in Washington and was offered a job with them out of college. So I started out my career in dietetics in the management area of school food service. I was there for just under 2 years and kind of knew that that wasn't where I ultimately wanted to end up, but it was a great starting place and it was a job. Because we have that year of unpaid work or really working for free. But I'd say school nutrition was a great place to start. I got some really good experience there, but ultimately just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I'd say I started looking for different jobs for at least several months before deciding to leave. When I left the school district, I took a part-time nutrition writing job, which was a fully virtual job. And I did that for a few months and was just trying to figure out what my next step would be from there. I'd say nutrition writing was something that was of interest to me, but having that part-time job just wasn't exactly what I wanted to do long term, and wasn't sustainable as just being this kind of like part-time job. But definitely nutrition communications is a huge field now and is even growing more, and it was something that was of interest to me. And I'd say, so going from there, I always had an interest in food brands, food companies. I thought it was really cool when dietitians worked for food companies. I think that's such a neat partnership, and it really is important because we have such an ability to impact a wide or a lot of people. So whether it's a food brand that distributes food products throughout the world, throughout the US, or if it's a food chain. I know the Taco Bell dietitian was on here, which has such a wide reach. So I'd say working for a food company really gives us the ability to reach a wide range of people. And I see a comment here from Build of Dietitians. Nutrition writing is another realm many RDs may not realize they can partake in. That is so true. Nutrition writing is still something that interests me, and I think is something you can even do with a food company. So depending on if you do end up with a food company, no matter what you're doing, I think that's something that you could bring to the table, whether that's something that they already offer or not. So coming to where I am now, I work for Trident Seafoods. and I've been with Trident for about a year and a half now. So I'd say I found this job um, when I was looking for jobs with food companies. I I started Googling different food brands that I knew of in the area, or looking on like LinkedIn. But I thought to look up Trident Seafoods because I actually worked for a Trident Seafoods retail store when they had one while I was in college. And the seafood industry has I have a personal connection to the seafood industry as well. My uncles were all commercial fishermen, and my dad and grandpa both worked in the seafood industry. So it's an area that I am passionate about and also find really interesting. Um, so I looked up Trident Seafoods to see if they happened to have any job positions open. And lo and behold, I found this posting for a nutrition and labeling specialist. At the time, I didn't fully understand what that meant or what that involved, but honestly, just the word nutrition in the title grabbed my attention, and I decided to apply. I did still have a personal connection there. My boss from the retail store still worked for the company, so I decided to reach out to him. So as you know, connections are super helpful in getting into a certain company, but not 100% necessary, of course. Um, so the job posting, going back to that, another thing that drew it, that that I'd say kind of drew me in was the under the description. It talked about nutrient analysis. The software that they use is Esha Genesis. Some of you may be familiar if that's what you used in college. And again, like I said, nutrition was in the title. So because of those things, I decided to apply for the job. Got an interview, interviewed twice, and then got the offer. So I'd say if you're looking for a similar job, you can leverage your skills for something similar, even if it's not, this one wasn't advertised as a dietitian job, and many of these jobs won't be advertised for a dietitian, but I can say you can leverage your skills definitely. Like I said, some of the keywords I saw were nutrient analysis, and that's something that we all have done in our, at least in our undergrad, if not in our internship or in current jobs. A job like mine is extremely detail oriented, and I know in general dietitians are most likely detail oriented. And with my background in school nutrition, I was able to leverage that as well. Some of the products that we carry are served to schools, so I was able to make that connection. And then, of course, my connection was helpful, having had my boss work there before, or currently work there. And then I'd say just my being able to emphasize my ability to learn on the job. I have done a ton of learning and am continuing to learn on the job. And as dietitians, we have our continuing education, so this isn't something that's new to us. So I'd say you could talk about that too, that we do have to continue to get education credits, and we're good at continuing to learn and keeping up on the latest knowledge. So I will give you a little rundown of what a typical day looks like for me. As with most jobs, the first maybe 30 minutes consists of checking emails and catching up on project updates. Everyone is looped in on everything pretty much, so it's a lot of emails, but it is helpful just so that we're all in the know. And of course, every day is a little bit different depending on current projects and priorities, but I'd say most of my day is spent on the computer. I have been working from home for over a year now, but even in the office, most of my day was spent on the computer. So one of my main job functions is graphic reviews. So for this, I work closely with our marketing and design team. So this consists of reviewing packaging. This might be for new products or updating existing products. And depending on the package, this review can take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours for the first review or the first look through. So I'm looking for a lot of things on packaging, but I'm the main things I'm looking for is the accuracy of the nutrition facts panel, and the ingredient statement and the allergen statement. As you know, the allergen statement is very important to be accurate. I'm also verifying claims, so you can make claims like how much protein, or you could say high protein. We also, being a seafood company, like to talk about the omega-3 values, so I'm double checking those as well. And then it gets down into even the nitty-gritty things like checking font size, and making sure everything is on the package that needs to be. I'd say the details can be tedious, but once you learn the rules, it goes a little bit faster. But it's been very interesting to learn about all the rules and regulations and what needs to be on packaging, and the position of certain like the title or the net weight statement, or where the nutrition facts panel needs to go. And yeah, it's been interesting to see, just to learn about that. So anyways, graphic reviews is one part of my job. Another part is creating the nutrition facts panels and the ingredient statements. So for this, I work closely with our R&D team, or recipe and development. So to start this process, I get a formula from them. We just use Excel docs for this. And from there, I'll gather spec sheets from all of our suppliers. So for whatever ingredients go into that item, I have to gather all the specifications for the product. And then from there, I can calculate the ingredient statement based on the percent of the ingredient used in the item. So it's from greatest to least. And then I'll also create the contain statement. And the next step is using that formula from R&D to create the nutrition facts panel. So like I said, we use ESHA Genesis software, but I know there's a few other different softwares out there. This is kind of the big one for us. Let's see, we have a question here. Was it difficult to process to transition to the new template of the nutrition facts panel? That is an excellent question. I actually joined the company after they made that transition, so I didn't have to deal with transitioning to the new nutrition facts panel format. But I know that was a huge project from them. It took a lot of manpower and just a lot of hours, so that was a big project. So that's another thing, is keeping up with the latest rules and regulations. For example, the nutrition facts panel template. The newest one now is bioengineered statements. So all packaging is going to be required to have a bioengineered statement if that product contains any bioengineered ingredients. So that's kind of our current big project that we're rolling out. Let's see. So another big part of my job, or I have many hats, but I'd say another part of my job is coordinating the lab analysis of products. So Genesis, oh, Adam says, say hi to Brett for me. Will do. So for the lab analysis component of my job, we use a third-party lab to test our products. So when we get this information back, I can plug it into our nutrient analysis software and then generate a nutrition facts panel from that. So we'll often do testing for if we're making omega-3 claims. So we have that data to back up exactly how many omega-3s are in the product. So I'll coordinate getting the sample shipped and then entering those lab results into our software. And then I'd say another group that I work closely with is our project managers. So whenever we have a new project, or it might be for a new item that we're going to be selling, or if we're updating an old item, whether that's reformulating having R&D reformulate the product, or if it's just a packaging update, we'll have a new project for that. So we'll have typically we'll have weekly meetings that are hosted by our project manager, and then there'll just be tasks throughout the duration of the project. So kind of similar to what I already said, my tasks might be creating the new nutrition facts panel, creating the ingredient statement, and doing graphics reviews, and then also validating claims, or maybe even creating a list of possible claims that our graphics and creative team can use. So as you can see, I get to connect and work with a lot of different departments within the company. But my department specifically is under FSQA, which is Food Safety and Quality Assurance. And then my immediate team is, let's see, there's 7 of us, 6 or 7 of us on my immediate team that I work with pretty closely every day. So with work from home, we've been using Microsoft Teams to communicate, like many people. So I do also have weekly meetings with my immediate team. And then, again, just a reminder, please, ask questions or put comments in the box throughout. I'm happy to answer anything that pops up. And then finally, another project that I've taken on that isn't necessarily typical of this role is updating our website. So I actually get in there to make these changes directly to the website because I'm familiar with WordPress, but I'm updating the product pages with new nutrition facts panels and ingredient statements. Let's see, another question rolled in. Or we have a few questions here. Mary said, what do you like best about your role? That is a good question, and I feel like that's going to be hard to answer. I'd say a couple things. One, I, both with my family background, being in the seafood industry, and then as a dietitian, just knowing the benefits of seafood, I'm just really passionate about seafood, and I love to be able to learn more about the backside of things, about how our products are created, and just seeing everything that goes into this industry. I'd say another part that I really enjoy about my role is being able to work on the team that I do. Trident Seafoods definitely has a very family feel. I love my team and everyone I work with, so that's kind of cheesy, but it's true. And then another question here, do you get to sample yummy products as part of the sensory evaluation step for quality assurance? I wish I got to do more of that. That isn't necessarily a part of my role. Like I said, I've been with Trident for about 1.5 years now. So it was kind of right before COVID hit and before everyone transitioned to work from home. But I'd say if I was in the office, I might have more possibilities to get to try new products that R&D is testing. So hopefully when we're back in the office, that will become more of a common occurrence. But I will say that the people in similar roles to mine may be more, have that be more part of their job or day-to-day tasks, I would say. Let's see, another question rolling in here. What facts claims have you used? Curious due to I always try to educate patients to look at nutrition labels for facts, not the front of the packaging. Yeah, that's a good question, and I know packaging can definitely be misleading, so that's kind of one of a big part of my job is making sure that we're not being misleading and that we're providing accurate and informative information on the package. So I'd say the main claims that we make are telling, or on the front of the package might be saying how much protein is in a serving of that item. So we might say 15 grams of protein per serving. And then the other one, like I mentioned, that we use a lot is the omega-3 amount. So we'll give the exact value of how many omega-3 fatty acids per serving. I'd say those are pretty safe claims, and I'd say they're straightforward and not misleading. Yeah, because, well, especially as a dietitian and educating patients, I'd say, omega-3 is a great one because we know we have the data to show how good those omega-3s are for us. But I know there can be a lot of claims out there on from other brands or on other packaging that can be confusing and misleading. So that's a tricky one. Let's see. Any advice for dietitians who are interested in a role like yours? Yes, that's a great question, Mary. So I have that actually next on my list. So we'll move into that. So I'd say if you're looking for a similar job or interested in a job like mine, I would first start by seeking out specific food companies. So whether that's a company that you're passionate about or maybe the company is in your area. I know, just for a few examples, I know Target, Campbell's, Cliff Bar, they all have dietitians working for them. Those are just a few that I can think of, but I know it's becoming more and more common for food companies to hire dietitians. So even if a company doesn't have a dietitian, I would say, reach out. You can educate the company on the benefits of having a dietitian. Like I said, the job posting for the job I'm in now with Trident wasn't advertised as a dietitian role, and Trident hasn't had a dietitian before, so I was kind of excited to step into that and to be able to use my skills. So I'd say seeking out specific food companies is a good place to start, but next you can Google food brands and then look at their job postings page. You can also look at restaurant chains. It's not specifically like a food development company, but I'd say chains like Chipotle or Panera. Also, even companies like Aramark or Sodexo, US Foods are all great places to start to look for similar type positions. Some search terms that I came across that were good or that were helpful for me in seeing similar jobs are using search terms like regulatory affairs, regulatory compliance, food labeling, labeling specialist, and nutrition specialist. So those are kind of just some key terms that I found helpful. And then once you do get an interview or the chance to talk with someone at a food company that you are interested in working for, I'd say you can use your dietitian skills to leverage your skills and say like, hey, I have the skills it takes for this position, even though it's not necessarily a dietitian role. For example, with food service management, you definitely use menu nutrient analysis. You gather vendor ingredient specifications. So that was something that I used from my experience working in school food service. If you're in school nutrition, you calculate the credible amounts for meals. So that's a calculation that you can use. Like I said, Trident carries some products that are served in schools, and we have to calculate, how many servings of meat and or protein and how many servings of grains it counts for. So I'd say that's something that's very valuable, even if you just have, background knowledge on what that even is. It's the product formulation statement. And then if you have a clinical background or clinical experience, even just if it's from your internship, I'd say your calculation skills from calculating formulas, you can use that as an example of your ability to calculate product composition or to develop the ingredient statements, or even calculations for product nutrient and health claims. So using or telling about your skills with using those clinical calculations that they transfer over to a job, the skills needed for a job like mine. Let's see, we have a few other questions rolling in. Working in seafood, do you think your clients are interested in sustainable seafood? Seems that's been a high priority for other food manufacturers. Absolutely. I'm not personally seeing clients, but I am friends with a lot of dietitians who do see clients, and I would say sustainability is a huge topic right now. Um, so I'd say this is a great area that dietitians can educate consumers on, whether it be a dietitian working for a company or a dietitian who sees clients. I'm that is actually another area that I'm super passionate about, and that I'm excited to work for Trident, or excited to work for a company like Trident who also has sustainability at the top of mind. And then another question, while I'm on this thought, what constitutes sustainable seafood? That one, I don't want to answer off the cuff. I don't know if there's an official definition for sustainable seafood. Yeah, I am going to hold off on that. I'm happy to, if you want to reach out to me on social media or on my LinkedIn, I'd be happy to look into that to see if there's an official definition. Maybe even on the Trident website, because sustainability, like I said, is top of mind for Trident, and we're really proud to offer sustainable seafood. So I'm going to come back to that one. So feel free, again, to reach out to me on social media or LinkedIn, and I will get you an answer. Okay, another question. Do you play a role in debunking myths or claims about seafood? And does Trident Seafoods have handouts available on seafood facts/nutrition for the public or health professionals to use? I don't personally play a role in debunking myths or claims. I'd say that's more probably with our marketing department, but that is definitely a role that I'd be happy to help out with. But because as dietitians, I feel like we do have that skill set to do the research and translate that research into information that consumers can understand and that's accurate and not misleading. As far as handouts available, I don't think I might be wrong, but I don't think we currently have handouts available on seafood facts or nutrition. I'd say one of our, or I'd say a good place to go is the Seafood Nutrition Partnership. They produce really high quality, great handouts and informationals on seafood facts and seafood nutrition. But I think that brings up a great question. If consumers were wanting something specific to Trident as far as seafood facts and nutrition goes, that would be something that I'd be happy to bring to the table. So that's a great question. And it looks like if you are interested in connecting, again, those are my handles there in the chat box. Let's see. So I kind of talked a little bit about comparable skills and what you might use to look for jobs similar to mine. I do have a few resources that I'd like to share that have been helpful to me. The first one is called IFT, or the Institute of Food Technologists. I am a member of IFT through work, which is nice. They serve as a great resource. I'd say if you're interested in R&D or food science, or like I said, a role similar to mine, IFT kind of encompasses all of that. So again, that's the Institute of Food Technologists. Another resource that I use daily is the Code of Federal Regulations. This is very dry, but it is a tool that I reference daily. So if you are interested in a role like mine, I'd say getting familiar with that and just knowing how to use it and how to look up rules and regulations is helpful. Again, I'd say the FDA and USDA regulations, of course, are something that I reference daily. And then if you're really wanting to, I'd say, to get more experience or more education before you're applying to jobs, again, not necessary. I did this after I got my position at Trident, but I actually did a food labeling workshop. I did mine with the Consumer Brands Association, or CBA. So they're located in Washington, D.C., but I think they're doing some online trainings now as well. And then another great place to do a food label training is through AIB International. So if you're really interested in doing a job similar to mine, I'd say doing like a food labeling training or workshop is super helpful. Oh, perfect. And we have the links for the Institute of Food Technologists there, and then the Seafood Nutrition Partnership. I think those are kind of my main points that I have for you, but I'd love to hear if you have any more questions about what I do, or about seafood or Trident Seafoods. I'm passionate about seafood, and I love working for Trident. And like I said, I'm really passionate about informing dietitians and future dietitians on kind of the off the beaten path careers that you can have as a dietitian. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Perfect. So we have the Code of Federal Regulations link there. I'd even be happy to add, let's see. So again, we had I mentioned the food label trainings. I can post the links to those here. This is one for AIB International that has a label training. And then I'll pop another one in there as well. The Consumer Brands Association training is one that I took. Awesome. Yes, thank you all for joining me this morning. This was a fun first Facebook Live. Again, I'd love to connect on social media, just to connect, or if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Again, my handle on Instagram and Twitter is Got Nourishment, or if you want to connect on LinkedIn, my URL is Leah-Swanson-RDN. Awesome. Thanks for joining, Mary. We have another question here. How does a RD clinical salary compare to yours? Comparable or more? That is an excellent question. Another topic that I'm very passionate about as a dietitian, rooting for RDs to get paid more. But as far as comparing to clinical, I mean, that's really going to depend on where you live. But for Seattle, I'd say the job I'm in now is probably pretty similar to an entry-level clinical dietitian job. So I could guess that would be the same in other areas, that it would be similar to what an entry-level job pays. And of course, the longer you're with the company, there's going to be opportunities to move up and have that potential for a salary increase, just like a clinical job. And again, that's probably going to vary based on company as well. But I'd say in general, it's probably pretty safe to say that it is pretty comparable to a clinical dietitian job. Any last questions? All right. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this morning. This was really fun. I love talking about being a dietitian and what I get to do every day. So again, please connect with me on LinkedIn or social media. And thank you all for joining. Have a great weekend.